The moment I saw my family dragging their suitcases across my private villa's marble patio in Santorini, their faces beaming with entitlement, I knew this wasn't a surprise visit. It was an ambush. What they didn't know was that I'd been preparing for this moment for 10 years. My name is Frank, I'm 33, and I work in project management. But this story isn't about spreadsheets or deadlines. It's about the moment I finally stopped being my family's personal ATM and became the villain in their twisted fairy tale. For a decade, I'd been systematically excluded from every single family vacation, while simultaneously funding their lifestyle. My parents, Diana and Robert, along with my younger sister Sage, had perfected the art of making me feel like both an outsider and an obligation. Every summer since I turned 23, they'd disappear to some exotic location, Santorini, Mykonos, Maui, posting Instagram stories that felt like digital daggers to my heart. "It's just not going to work this year, Frank," became Diana's annual mantra. "We've already booked everything. Besides, you're so busy with work anyway." The truth? I wasn't too busy. They simply didn't want me there. But here's the twisted irony. While they were sipping cocktails on Mediterranean beaches, I was back home covering their emergencies. Property taxes shortfall? That was my credit card. Robert's dental implants? My savings account took the hit. When Sage moved back home for what was supposed to be a temporary stay that stretched into 2 years, guess who paid her phone bill every month? Family helps family, right? I'd tell myself, staring at my dwindling bank balance. But somewhere along the way, helping transformed into something darker, enabling. The breaking point came last winter. After another casual, "Oh, we're going without you this year," something inside me snapped. Not with rage, but with cold, calculated clarity. If I wasn't part of their family vacations, I'd create my own. I booked a $14,000 private villa in Santorini. Ocean view, infinity pool, complete solitude. 2 weeks of pure peace without a single guilt trip or financial emergency. I told no one. Posted nothing. This wasn't revenge, it was liberation. Or so I thought. 3 days into my blissful solitude, I emerged from my morning swim to find a nightmare dressed as a surprise. There they stood, Diana, Robert, and Sage, dragging designer luggage across my private sanctuary. Surprise! Diana's voice rang out like nails on a chalkboard. Her smile was radiant, as if she'd orchestrated the most heartwarming family reunion in history. "We thought we'd join you. Since you already have this gorgeous villa, you can just cover our portion too." I stood there, salt water dripping from my hair, processing the sheer audacity. 3 seconds of stunned silence stretched into eternity. Then I smiled. A smile that would have terrified them if they'd been paying attention. "Understood," I said calmly. That single word triggered the most satisfying chain reaction of my adult life. Within minutes, I'd paused their access to our shared travel wallet. The emergency fund I'd created years ago that had become their personal vacation ATM. I messaged the concierge. "I am the lead guest. No authorizations without my approval. Add 2 single-night guest passes for my relatives. After that, day access only." Their airport transfers? I called the company and moved their return booking to the earliest ferry departure. Not the luxurious late-night seaplane they'd booked on my dime. "Family emergency, change of plans," I explained. The emergency was my boundaries. At lunch, Diana casually dropped her napkin and chirped, "How about a seafood feast on the house?" Robert chuckled, using the word treat 3 times in one sentence. I paid for my Greek salad and watched them squirm as they realized their cards were declining. That evening, I opened my laptop and did something I should have done years ago. I created a comprehensive ledger. Every transaction, every emergency, every time I'd been their financial safety net. The numbers were staggering. My contributions over 10 years, $9,870. Their contributions, $1,300. Notes in my spreadsheet read like a tragedy. "Will repay Friday, sort after family. Just this once." Friday never came. Family became a one-way transaction. As I sat in that Santorini restaurant, wine glass in hand, watching the sunset paint the Aegean Sea in shades of gold, the waiter leaned in with a whisper that changed everything. "Sir, they've canceled everything." Robert's face went ashen. Diana blinked rapidly, confusion replacing her entitled smile. Sage stared at her phone like it had personally betrayed her. What does he mean? Diana's voice had lost its cheerful confidence. My card just declined, Sage muttered, panic creeping in. Did the bank block it? Robert's question hung in the air like smoke. I took a slow sip of wine, savoring the moment. The emergency wallet is paused until we settle the last 12 months. You're on day passes here. After tomorrow, it's beaches and cafes. Plenty of free sunsets. The silence was deafening. For the first time in a decade, they had no comeback, no manipulation, no guilt trip that could reach me. I placed my phone on the table, the ledger open for all to see. Numbers don't lie. Math doesn't manipulate. Are you serious? Sage's voice cracked. We flew across the world. You flew across the world on a wallet labeled emergency. I replied evenly. Here's the ledger. Diana went straight to her greatest hits. You're embarrassing us. I shook my head slowly. I've been embarrassed for 10 years. Tonight I'm being clear. Robert tried the guilt card. Don't do this to your mother. Don't do this to your son. I countered and watched him flinch. The check arrived and sat there like a final exam with only one right answer. I let the silence do its work, then smiled at the waiter and reached for my portion. Only my portion. The realization hit them like a Greek tragedy. There was no bottomless credit card tonight. There was me, and there were prices they'd finally have to pay themselves. We came all this way, Robert pleaded, desperation replacing his usual authority. No, I cut him off. You crashed my vacation. The one I planned, paid for, and booked for myself after a decade of being told, this trip isn't for you. Sage rolled her eyes with practiced teenage disdain, despite being 28. Oh my God, are you seriously still hung up on that? It was just 10 years. Something inside me snapped clean in half. 10 years of watching you post beach photos while telling me it's not the right time. But the second I book something for myself, suddenly it's family bonding time. Diana deployed her nuclear option. We're family. We share experiences. You're being petty. I leaned back, wine warming my chest, clarity cooling my mind. No, I'm being done. There's a difference. We didn't bring enough cash for everything. Robert's voice turned hard. You know we were counting on. I laughed. An actual, genuine laugh that made his face darken with embarrassment. You've been counting on me since I got my first paycheck. Rent, bills, flights, hotels. I've paid for more family experiences than I've actually been part of. The rest of dinner was a masterclass in uncomfortable silence. Every time the waiter passed, Robert would ask about the booking issue, and I'd smile and say, resolved for me. That night, I walked back to the villa alone, locked my suite, and poured another glass of wine. Through my window, I could hear them arguing, Robert angry, Diana defensive, Sage insisting they should just put everything on my card, since it's easier. I sent one message to our family group chat. I'm leaving the villa tomorrow morning. You're welcome to keep it for the remaining nights at your expense. Good luck. The typing bubbles appeared instantly. Mom, you're overreacting. Sage, selfish much. Robert, we'll talk in the morning. I muted the chat and slept better than I had in years. The next morning, I checked into a smaller hotel on the other side of the island. For the first time in a decade, I swam without wondering who needed what, ate seafood without calculating costs, and let my phone live on Do Not Disturb. They didn't last 3 days without my financial umbilical cord. Day 1. They tried to bluff the concierge. Day 2. Robert called with fake friendliness claiming the system made a mistake. Day 3. Sage sent 12 consecutive texts, screenshots of declined cards, dramatic sighing emojis, then, we're leaving early. Are you happy now? I replied once. Safe travels. When I finally returned home, I didn't tell anyone my arrival time. I unlocked my apartment, set down my luggage, opened a window, and simply stood there. No crisis waiting. No rope around my neck. Just peace. The aftermath was predictably dramatic. Diana posted a passive-aggressive Instagram caption about rough trips teaching grace. Sage uploaded a reel about being let down by people you love. Robert called to say I'd humiliated him. I didn't engage with their social media theater. Instead, I sent one comprehensive email to all three. The complete ledger, repayment options, and a single line that changed everything. I will not fund you. The repayment plan was boring by design. Line items, dates, what was owed, clear options. 60-day full payoff with a discount, or 12-month auto-draft schedule. No extensions, no exceptions, no group trips until zero balance and an apology. Diana replied first. We do not owe you. We are family. I responded with the PDF. Again. Robert wrote, You're acting like a creditor. My response, because I've been one. Sage tried pity. I'm anxious. Money talk makes it worse. I wrote, Then stop spending mine. Finally, silence. Beautiful golden silence. The transformation was immediate. I started going to the gym before meetings instead of staying up late to handle someone else's Uber emergency. I logged off work at 6 without carrying family crises into the evening. My boss noticed the change. Keep whatever you're doing up, he said after I declined a weekend call about Sage's apartment drama. 3 weeks later, Diana called crying that Robert's card had been declined at the pharmacy. The old me would have driven across town with cash. The new me asked, Where's Robert? I read the repayment plan aloud. There's a hardship form in the email. It reduces the monthly amount, but you still pay something. I will not be your emergency. Robert tried his intimidation voice. I kept mine neutral. When he realized I wouldn't budge, he hung up. 2 hours later, notification of the first autodraft from his account. No apology attached, but I didn't require one to process payment. Sage came next, needing help with lease renewal fees. I told her to sell the designer luggage she'd tagged me in, and start a savings account labeled Adult Responsibilities. She wrote 3 paragraphs about feeling unsupported. I answered with a sentence. You are an adult. 2 days later, she listed the luggage online and paid her own fees. Her follow-up text was a single line. I did it alone. My reply. Good. Diana tried cousin triangulation. Suddenly relatives I hadn't heard from in years were messaging me with pieces of her version. I ignored the noise and sent the same PDF to anyone asking for my side. Facts don't need adjectives. One aunt sent a thumbs up. Another asked for the spreadsheet template, because her grown son was financially draining her. I forwarded it gladly. Month by month they paid. Sage included hostile one-liners. I hate this. I responded. Me too. See you when it's 0. Robert stalled in month 3. I applied late fees as promised. Diana tried gift bombing with a scarf from Greece and a note about how love wins. Love without respect is just expensive sentiment. But something beautiful happened in month 5. Robert called without anger, told me he'd switched to the community clinic I'd suggested, and admitted it wasn't as bad as expected. He asked how Santorini really was without all the fighting. The water was as blue as the photos, I told him. He laughed once, like he'd forgotten how. Month 6 brought coffee with Diana, our first real conversation in years. She cried less, listened more. When the bill came, we both reached for it, then each paid our own portion. It felt ordinary and revolutionary simultaneously. The villa sent an end-of-season email with sunset photos I'd actually witnessed. I saved one to my desktop, not as a trophy but as a reminder of where the water meets the sand and keeps moving. Today, almost a year later, the balance is nearly 0. Sage and I talk regularly now, not about money but about life. She admitted she never realized how much they'd been leaning on me until she became next in line. Now I get it, she said quietly during our last call. I'm planning another trip soon. Smaller this time, just a week in the mountains. No group invites, no shared wallets, no one asking me to cover the rest. Just me, my boundaries, and the peace I fought so hard to protect. The thing about drawing a line is simple. People either learn to respect it or learn to live without crossing it. Either way, I finally get to keep my peace. And I'm never giving it up again. Because sometimes the best family vacation is the one you take alone. And the one that teaches everyone else they're not entitled to your generosity, your money, or your life.